Hi Mum! You do everything for everyone else. Let me help you make your life easier. Quick, short information to make you empowered and remind you why you are so important. Because if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you choose what's right for you? Hi, I'm Alina, Director of my private practice Supportive Therapy, an everyday Aussie mum trying not to lose my biscuits at my kids. As a mental health professional, I'm here to share my secrets so no other mother feels alone or powerless. Knowledge is power, and I want you to be powerful. Think of it like I'm your mindset coach through all of this. Everything is backed by science and psychology. I believe in you, and I want you to be the best version of yourself. To be happy and to feel in control, you need to be mentally strong. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mentally Strong Mums with me, Alina Bishop. This one's going to be a bit of a heavy one. I think it's very important though that we are aware with this, especially now with the changes in Australia, that if you have potentially ADD or ADHD or combined presentation, you don't have to go see a psychiatrist anymore. You can get diagnosed with through a GP at your GP, right? And I think the rise of self-awareness and understanding sometimes that something's always been off and I've never put my finger on it. So this is a later life diagnosis of being neurodiverse or being under the neurodiverse umbrella and how it impacts your executive functioning, okay? So we might do a whole series about neurodiversity, what's under the neurodiverse umbrella, what is executive functioning, how it impacts you, why life is harder for people that are neurodiverse than people that are neurotypical. Neurotypical essentially means that your brain is able to do things at a typical or normal, quote unquote, normal rate, right? But when you are neurodiverse, if you potentially have a little bit of ADD or a little bit of ADD, ADHD, maybe you might have a little bit of autism, a little bit of OCD, a little bit of anxiety. You might have a little bit of that oppositional defiance disorder, might have a little bit of rejection sensitivity. Do you know what I mean? How all of that impacts the way that you think, the way that you process, the way that you regulate your nervous system if you're calm or if you're always anxious. It has to do with your planning, your organization, your impulse control, and that's what we're going to talk about as well. So if you are in fact, or even your partner, so I'm going to talk about mums with ADHD, but potentially your partner might have this that's undiagnosed as well, and so they're the ones that actually drink a lot. So this will just be a really lovely way to be able to understand and help normalize what's actually going on, specifically over the silly season when it comes to alcohol and binge drinking, right? So we want to be able to understand the intersection of neurodivergence, as well as the alcohol culture in Australia, and how that emotional self-regulation can be very difficult to do. And if I can't regulate and calm myself down on my own, sometimes alcohol is the thing that does that for me. Alcohol is the thing that makes me feel numb. It makes me feel calm. It makes me feel relaxed. Sometimes that's only the first one or two drinks, and then after that, all the other symptoms kind of ramp up, right? But what you're actually searching for is that relief or that calm or that numb, or make my mind just stop thinking. Or if I have a drink, I'm more likely to actually stop and to have a break, right? That's a very common thing too. Sometimes, even if you're not neurodiverse, sometimes when I talk to mums about drinking and they're like, God, I don't even want to drink. But it comes to 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and it's like itchy skin, like I've got to have it. And then we understand about conditioning. Well, maybe that's the only, because you go, run during the day. When you have a drink, it's almost like your body forces you or gives you permission to stop and quote unquote relax. And so then that becomes a conditioned feeling and a conditioned response. But If you're a woman with ADD, ADHD, or the combined presentation, or if you identify as neurodiverse, and if you've ever noticed that sometimes you go from 0 to drunk faster than what you expected, or you binge drink socially to feel normal, you struggle to stop once you start. And then sometimes you wake up with that shame or regret after that big night, right? Even if it's just by yourself. Sometimes as well, no, I don't want to, no, I don't want to, no, I don't want to. But you turn around and your hand's got a drink in it and you're like, damn it. Impulse control, that's what that is. That also is combined with ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. Your brain's telling you don't do it. But oppositional defiance disorder is don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to do it. So then you do it, right? So even though this is going to be a difficult topic, it's not about judgment. It's about curiosity, the science behind it, self-compassion and understanding. So when we look at ADHD, I'm just going to say ADHD because it will be easier than me doing the three. When we look at that, studies show that individuals with ADHD are 2 to 3 times more likely to engage in substance misuse, particularly alcohol, because an ADHD brain are wired differently, right? They've got lower baseline dopamine. So ADHD brains often have reduced dopamine receptors availability. So this means that we crave stimulation and reward more intensely than people who are neurotypical. Sometimes this dopamine, even if it's not with alcohol, I have a couple and the hubby, which is ADD, he gets a lot of that dopamine from picking and stirring the kids. He just stirs the kids. He just stirs the kids all the time. Or he just, it's always these planning little stirring the things, and that's his dopamine reward system. Drives the wifey crazy, right? 2, it's that impulse control. It's impaired impulse control. So that prefrontal cortex, which is your forehead, which if you're a client of mine, I talk about your forehead all the time, right? It's responsible for inhibition and foresight. This functions differently in neurodiverse brains, right? This impulse, next minute, I've got a drink in my hand because it's impulsive. There's no thought or resistance or negotiation. It's just very impulsive, right? 3, emotional dysregulation. So many women with ADHD feel emotions more intensely and have difficulty soothing themselves when they're distressed, okay? So ADHD finds it difficult than neurotypical people to regulate and to be calmer because everything's heightened, and then especially the way potentially that their brain, you can't get a break in your own body, right? And then that makes it harder to regulate and be calm. Time blindness. There's a thing called time blindness. There's a disconnection from the sense of time. So it's easy to say just one drink, right? And then you look up and you've been there for hours, or you've been doom scrolling for hours and you don't know what time it is or where you're at. Or do you know what I mean? I turn around and the whole bottle of wine is gone. Where did the time go? Do you know what I mean? When alcohol enters this equation, it rapidly increases that dopamine and then reduces inhibition. So it can be a really fast fix for an overwhelmed brain searching relief or even sometimes stimulation, but it's generally that relief, right? So this is also a perfect storm for binge drinking. So it's very hard for people that are neurodiverse to stop at just one glass because, one, it's that all or nothing mentality. Well, I've already had 2, might as well finish the whole bottle. Well, I never get to go out. I deserve to get loose tonight, or I deserve to let go tonight. Do you know what I mean? So then it's that very black and white thinking, right? 2, hyperfocus on the high. So when dopamine finally spikes from drinking, it can feel amazing, euphoric even for some people. So neurodivergent brain locks onto that feeling, okay? This is the best I've felt all day, or this is the best I've felt all weeks, or I can finally feel confident and relaxed in my own body, especially if your brain went, it's sometimes really hard to be on your own body if this is going all the time, right? So then you hyper-focus on that high and it wants to keep that feeling, therefore it doesn't stop, okay? 3, the AD is that avoidance of discomfort. So the ADHD brain hates boredom and hates discomfort, right? So if you're overstimulated from parenting or if you're even undervalued in your relationship, or you're tired of masking all week, or if you're tired of masking all day, alcohol offers that temporary escape from the emotional exhaustion, okay? 4 is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD. So this is this massive thing with neurodiverse people, that the intense emotional pain from perceived rejection, disapproval, or even failure. Drinking is often used to numb or avoid these feelings, especially after a bad day at work or a fight with your partner or even parenting guilt, right? And obviously, as we said, that time blindness. So you can see it's almost like the perfect storm. So even for some people, they impulsively have a drink. It happens, it's that all or nothing mentality where it's everything. It's the whole bowl of wine. And then the time blindness, you sit there scrolling and drinking and the whole bottle's kind of gone. It's that searching for that numbness or that calm, especially to stop your brain. So you can see how that people, and even I've got a couple of people that are neurodiverse that have challenges with drinking, and they say they're with their friend or their sibling that's neurotypical, and they can't believe that when they're with their friend, they have 1 or 2 glasses and then they go, that's it, good night, I'm done, I don't want to anymore. And then the neurodiverse person goes, you what? You're stopping now? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, how are you stopping? I've still got another glass, the bottle, there's still heaps of the bottle to go. I have to, and the other person that's neurotypical goes, no, I just had 2 and that's fine. And the neurodiverse person is genuinely like, well, I can't stop now. I've got to keep on. I've got to finish. I've got to start. I've got to finish what I. So it's real, whether I'm talking to you or whether I'm talking about your partner, or even sometimes this can have a look at your own parents and what that kind of looks like as well. So it impacts families because alcohol misuse in neurodivergent people doesn't happen in isolation. It bleeds into family life. So sometimes it can look like that emotional unpredictability. Kids might feel unsure of their moods or reactions. It's that guilt of the hangovers. You might wake up regretting the words that you've said, the things you've forgotten, or the behaviors that might not align with your values, right? It then puts a strain on your relationship, so partners might not understand the neurobiology beneath the behavior, leading to that criticism or distance or judgment, right? Then inevitably you can understand why it leads to this shame spiral. It's that cycle of drink, regret, self-blame, mask. Uncomfortable, drink, regret, self-blame, mask. Uncomfortable, drink, regret, self-blame, mask, right? So that also has an impact to your self-worth. Okay, so when we look at Australian culture, sometimes it looks like alcohol is the social glue that keeps us together. It's how we relax and bond and celebrate, commiserate, right? So I've even gone to places and I don't want to have a drink, but then if you're just drinking a water or juice, people will go, why aren't you drinking? And I'm like, because I don't want to. And they're like, what, are you pregnant? And I'm like, I'm not pregnant. Well, why aren't you drinking? Just have a drink. I don't know, because I just don't want one. But why aren't you drinking? I don't know, leave me alone, man. I don't want to have a drink. Well, I can't drink. I'm now self-conscious. But I want to have a good time and I want to let loose. But now you're... Do you know what I mean? Sometimes mums normalise like that romanticising wine time or wine o'clock, right? Those social expectations to loosen up or to have fun, I can only do that with alcohol. That cultural feel of being, oh gosh, the boring one who doesn't drink, you know? So sometimes as well, it's this perfect storm of external pressures as well as your own internal vulnerability. And if you don't understand these cycles, and if you are neurodiverse, and if this is very common for you, hopefully this is like an aha moment, because then maybe I might be able to understand what my body's asking for, right? So many mums don't even know that they're neurodiverse, or they've even been misdiagnosed with other things, right? They just think that they're bad at self-control, or I'm too emotional, or I'm not strong enough, right? When in fact, their brain is simply trying to self-regulate the only way that it knows how to, okay? So one, understanding that if this is you and this is very familiar, or if I'm describing your partner, be able to have contingencies for this, right? Track your patterns. So notice when you're more likely to want to have that urge to drink, or if you can't stop at one. So look at everything like a science experiment. When are you most likely to binge drink or to have a few? Social overwhelm, after rejection, when you mask all day, right? Awareness is that first antidote. I wonder why, right? The kids are driving you crazy and I'm overwhelmed, right? 2, understand that your brain does need dopamine. So what does that look like for you in healthy ways, right? How can you do that on purpose as opposed to getting it from alcohol? Maybe you want to dance or put on music or exercise, going for a walk. Maybe it's new experiences or giving yourself permission to have a look at hobbies. Some people even like those cold plunges or sunlight, all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? People also, when they learn this, they have ADHD supplements, and how they feel all of these symptoms kind of calm down with that if they're not into medication yet, right? So also learning how to self-soothe as opposed to just numb. So how do you self-soothe and not self-suppress? So we understand about vagus nerve work, about weighted blankets, about safe venting spaces, also having an honest conversation about your experiences. And sometimes if you're listening to this and you don't speak to someone about it, maybe if you've got ChatGPT, have a conversation with ChatGPT. Hey, listen, I think I might be neurodiverse, maybe ADHD. I've noticed that I binge drink a lot, and this is why. I need you to help me self-soothe, or help me track this, or help me something. So even though I did that episode a while ago on AI not being your therapist, using it in a way that empowers you, that helps you, and especially when you're alone and you feel a certain way, that can be a really lovely tool, right? So whether it's a therapist or an ADHD coach or a support group, even ChatGPT, being seen without shame is the most healing thing that you can do, okay? So if alcohol is a problem in your family and we realize that it's potentially neurodiverse link, right? Sometimes we've all never again. I'm never doing that again, right? If you're neurodiverse and trying to make it just through the day with a brain that's wired for more stimulation, more emotion and more intensity, you're not a bad mum. You're a woman whose nervous system is completely overwhelmed. You're a woman trying to survive in a world that doesn't understand your wiring. And sometimes with the mental load and everything that you're doing, and we sometimes put too much on our shoulders and we feel like we're failing. You deserve support, not shame. Understanding that this could just be the beginning so that you can create new pathways. You can honor your needs. and you are allowed to take up space as the whole, complex, vibrant, neurodiverse person that you are, realizing that you're not alone. You might not be everyone's cup of tea. That's because you're champagne, darling, right? And you're not too much for those people that can't get enough of you. Let all of that just kind of sink in. Look after yourselves, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.